This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
I want all money going to the people and let the people buy their own health care.
This is the end of the road for me.
They couldn't give me a penny, so they gave me $2.05.
I still have a little more time on the clock.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. A foot of snow is possible tonight for Oswego County and 4 to 6 inches for the snow belts near Lake Erie. But then the day after, how about spring? The good news is we'll be nearly 50 by Thursday. Kevin Williams has a full breakdown of your boomerang forecast in a few minutes. President Trump is amid a press conference at this hour. He just created a Mexican Border Defense Medal, a new military award for service members who are protecting the southern border. At that event, reporters asked the president what he hopes to see as far as the vote on health care before the close of the year.
Insurance companies are making a fortune. They're up 1,700% and more. They're taking in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars. And Obamacare gives you terrible health care.
The president saying the health care system is very broken.
Just so you understand, Obamacare was set up, and I said it right from the beginning, for the benefit of the health insurance companies. They're making billions and billions of dollars. Their stock is through the roof. I don't want to give them anything. I want all money going to the people and let the people buy their own health care.
If a decision on Obamacare subsidies is not made by year's end, millions of Americans may face a significant increase in health care costs. Now to Rhode Island and staring down a gunman. There's a massive manhunt underway near Brown University where 2 people were killed and 9 injured over the weekend in a campus shooting. The gunman still at large. This teacher's assistant came face to face with him and lived.
I was standing in the front, so as soon as he walked in, he immediately saw me and I immediately saw him. I look to my right and I see a bunch of students running down the stairs, running out the door, jumping on the ground, whatever it takes to stay alive.
He told the story to Fox News.
When you made eye contact with him, what did your mind tell you in terms of what was happening in that moment?
The gun was so big and long that I genuinely thought, okay, this is the end of the road for me.
CBS's Jared Hill says police are not even sure if that shooter is still in Rhode Island.
What we know at this point is that they're saying there isn't a ton of video evidence in or around the school where this happened, and so that's why they're asking for the public to come forward with anything that they might have that could help figure out who this person is.
In California, Hollywood horror. The younger son of director and actor Rob Reiner was arrested for the deaths of his parents.
By the end of the night, by midnight, they had already arrested Nick Reiner. Now we're awaiting likely an arraignment hearing. We're going to hear about formal charges, and that process will then kick in.
32-year-old Nick Reiner being held on $4 million bail in Los Angeles. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti.
Nick Reiner has been very open about his struggles with drug addiction and with homelessness. His role, the implication behind what unfolded inside the family's home, still unclear.
Hollywood is reeling.
Just really surreal and still in shock, to be honest. Just still in shock. Rob was like a father to me.
Jerry O'Connell starred in Reiner's movie Stand By Me. You may remember Rob Reiner best from All in the Family. He also directed When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is speaking for the first time since 15 people were gunned down on the famous Bondi Beach this past weekend.
There's no evidence that these people were part of a cell. Clearly, they were motivated by this extremist ideology.
That shooting happened at the Jewish Festival of Light. Australia has some of the toughest gun laws in the world.
We've spoken to a number of residents here who say these acts of violence do not happen in Australia, and they blame the government for not doing enough to stamp out anti-Semitism, which is on the rise in this country.
Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman weighing in.
Anti-Semitism is a worldwide scourge, and it's constantly demonstrated to be deadly and it keeps manifest itself in these things, just like what's happened now in Australia, too.
Bystander tackled one of the two gunmen to the ground. Albanese said it could have been far worse had it not been for that man's bravery. DEI showdown. Some students in Alabama are going to court to save diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. CBS's Jim Krasula.
Several students and professors in Alabama are challenging a 2024 state law that bans diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in public schools. The law prohibits using state funds for DEI programs. Critics argue the law limits academic freedom and alters curriculums.
And penny pinch. Just 1 month after the last copper-plated coin was minted, pennies are already in short supply. In fact, major retailers and restaurants are already struggling now to come up with change. Some are rounding up, some are rounding down, and Americans are offering their 2 cents about it on social media.
They owe me 7 cents. They're going to round it down to a nickel, it says on their sign. How is that right?
This is exactly how it's supposed to be done. They should have owed me $2 and a penny. They couldn't give me a penny, so they gave me $2.05.
Experts estimate about 300 billion pennies are in circulation today, though the vast majority are not with the Federal Reserve, but likely stuck in water jugs or piggy banks. Austin Jensen Jr. is an executive VP in the retail industry.
If you have the pennies back at home right now, feel free to bring them into your retailers or your banks. I will tell you right now that store manager is going to give you a huge hug.
He says if you're willing to offer up a pretty penny for your local small business, it'll certainly go a long way. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, New York just got sued for its vaccine laws. Kathy Hochul weighs in on assisted suicide, and it's a wrap for wreaths across America. Those stories after weather with Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The call for tonight, variable cloudiness with snow flurries, but bands of lake effect snow, one northeast of Lake Erie, one northeast of Lake Ontario, will slowly sink south through the night. In those snow-belted areas, a few inches of fluff will fall. Low temps tonight, single digits and teens. Tomorrow, some sunshine, not as chilly as recent days, mid-20s to mid-30s. Cloudy for the most part on Wednesday with high temperatures then, not far from 40.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Children's Health Defense has just sued the state of New York in a bid to overturn the 2019 law that yanked religious exemptions for vaccines. The lawsuit comes 1 week after a favorable U.S. Supreme Court ruling in another religious exemption case over the Amish. Attorneys for Children's Health Defense and 7 parents and 9 children in this new case said last week's high court ruling signaled strong support for parents' rights to, quote, direct their children's religious upbringing. The clock is ticking for New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Since June, she's had about 250 bills dropped on her desk by the legislature to sign, but there's one in particular that's being closely watched, the Medical Aid in Dying bill. If signed, it would make New York the 13th state to approve physician-assisted suicide. Hochul gave an update on where she's at.
But I still have a little more time on the clock to review them, and so my policy has not been to disclose until I have a chance to talk to the parties involved about my position, do any final last-minute negotiations.
The governor told WBEN she and her team are the gatekeepers.
I spend an enormous amount of my time reading every word to make sure that there's not an outcome that is not anticipated. So that's our job. We have to be the firewall against bad policy that could happen.
She has until the 31st to decide. More than 2 million volunteers spent part of the weekend honoring America's war heroes and keeping their stories alive for generations to come. The annual Wreaths Across America event on Saturday saw wreaths laid on veterans' graves at more than 5,000 locations, including several in New York and Pennsylvania. Kenneth Juergens, commander of American Legion Post 954 in Churchville, New York, tells WHEC.
It's very important to recognize service members who've served their country and have given it all. Wreaths Across America, sole purpose is to recognize those sacrifices and to remember them. That's why we ask everybody when they place a wreath onto the tombstone that they make sure they say their veteran's name and remember them.
Dee Bloom volunteered to lay wreaths at Erie, Pennsylvania's Soldiers and Sailors Home Veterans Memorial Cemetery, telling Jet TV.
I don't think you realize the magnitude of what they do for our country until you come here and you see all these headstones and people that had served and lost their lives, usually serving.
Wreaths Across America began in 1992 in the state of Maine. Next at 5, Dr. Ralph Kerr with the Teaching and Learning Institute. We start with another lawsuit, this one involving Tish James. Let's listen in.
We'll begin in New York. Attorney General Tish James is being sued for threatening school board members in Massapequa. This is on Long Island. She has told them, do not criticize transgender policies or you will be removed from the board. This came in the form of a guidance letter. Board members, Ralph, who use the wrong pronouns will face removal. Students are banned from speaking out at school board meetings on this issue. What's going on in Massapequa? And is the Attorney General overstepping her authority here?
Well, I believe that she is. I mean, sending a guidance letter like that, wish she'd put her time into other things. But I am really glad that the board has decided to sue her over this, because this really has a chilling effect on free speech. And she's asking board members and even students to kind of self-censor on controversial issues. And I think the bottom line here is that this could be a violation of the First Amendment rights of the school board members and the students that are involved. And again, I think she has overstepped her authority, and I'm glad in one sense that the board is suing her over this. But again, I'm sorry that they are, because it's a cost to the taxpayers. But again, you have to defend your rights, and in this case, I think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, for a student to speak out at a school board meeting about biological boys competing in girls' sports, for the AG to say, you can't talk about that? Come on. That's, for sure. I think you used the word chilling. That kind of defines it. Well, hey, if we're not controversial enough, let's head to Washington, D.C. There's a charter school there, Ralph, that proposes paying students $50 a week to combat chronic absenteeism. They're not coming to school, so let's pay them to come to school. This is happening in our nation's capital, where about 40% of students were chronically absent last year. That's when you miss more than 10% of school days. What do you think, Ralph, of this idea of paying students to attend school in the District of Columbia?
Well, at first blush, it really sounds pathetic in my mind. But when I looked into it a little more, at least taxpayer funding is not involved in this payment. It's really part of a larger research project at the national level that's being funded by private foundations called the $50 study. It's been ongoing for several years, and they're really trying to figure out, is it worth paying students in order to get them to school?
That's Dr. Ralph Kerr with the Teaching and Learning Institute and our own Bob Price. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Issues in Education and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org.
There's nothing worse than paying for something and getting nothing in return. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. Hidden fees can quietly drain your budget if you're not watching for them. Take ATM fees. You're paying for convenience, but with a little planning, you can withdraw cash for free at your own bank or during checkout. Next, checking account fees. Many banks charge them unless you meet certain requirements. Shop around for free checking with no minimum balance or hidden charges. And don't overlook online subscriptions. It's easy to pay for the same streaming service twice, or for ones you've forgotten about. Review your statements often and cancel what you don't use. Avoiding wasteful fees isn't just smart, it's faithful stewardship. Every dollar you save can be used to serve God's greater purposes. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, 1,400 couples and a kiss. We'll tell you what it's all about after one last look at weather.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We'll be watching a couple lake effect snow bands tonight northeast of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, with some additional fluffy accumulations due there. Otherwise, the pattern moving forward will feature a break from the bitter, more moderate temperatures ahead. The call for tonight, variable cloudiness with snow flurries, but bands of lake effect snow, one northeast of Lake Erie, one northeast of Lake Ontario, will slowly sink south through the night. In those snow-belted areas, a few inches of fluff will fall. Low temps tonight, single digits and teens. Tomorrow, some sunshine, not as chilly as recent days, mid-20s to mid-30s. Cloudy for the most part on Wednesday with high temperatures then, not far from 40.
45 and higher by Thursday. Thank you, Kevin. Finally at 5, it was the kiss of all kisses. CBS's Deborah Rodriguez has the story.
Should be playing in the winter snow, but I'ma be under the mistletoe.
1,435 couples made like Justin Bieber to set a new world record. They kissed for 5 seconds underneath the national mistletoe in Washington, D.C. to notch a spot in the Guinness books. That breaks the old record set by 480 couples who locked lips under the holiday shrub in St. Louis in 2019.
We'll see if they have what it takes to break the world record. And that's the world that we live in for Monday, the 15th of December. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.